shall tremble before the storm that gathers in my pants.
Turns out being struck by lightning doesn't give you any powers. They caved my head in with a pipe and beat me for several hours. But as I lay there half conscious, with my nuts exposed to air, I looked up to the blackened sky and said an ancient prayer.
Lord, if you're there, please infuse my nuts with the power of 1,000 suns.
Holy shit, you're real?
Let there be thunder and lightning, acorn shot from the tree of life. Thunder and lightning, high voltage nerves lighting up the night. Mighty balls gifted from Odin's host. Thunder and lightning,
Suck 'em!
Are we live? Yes, so we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a real exciting Saturday stream, where today we are rolling into talking DnD. More specifically, we're going into our next lesson stream, learning a bit about how to play Dungeons and Dragons. But before we get on into what we have scheduled, how are you all doing? How have your weeks been? How are your weekends shaping up to be? And any exciting news or changes coming up for anybody? We have now rolled our way through January and getting into February. So, for those of you out there in the States, I sure hope you're keeping your eyes open for all of your tax information, because pretty soon we are all going to learn how much we owe or have freely lent on out to the government. If your job hasn't sent you your information yet, I'd recommend reaching out to HR, as all businesses in the U.S. are required to send out their W-2s before February begins. But beyond our fun little, what would that be? PSA about I just skipped taxes. That's fair enough, Sour. If you could get away with it, knock it out. Shit, I gotta take care of taxes. Yep. I figured that would be a really good time for the PSA to all y'all, because Twitch just sent me my info where I gotta be like, yeah, I make a little bit of money from Twitch. And the government gets to tell me, hobby income. Well, isn't it unfortunate that we get to take a little bit of that? Luckily, though, I've lost a little bit of money in the stock market. So, once Robinhood sends me that information, I might be able to convince them to not take as much from me. Aloha, Marcial. How are you doing? My tax return is going to suck this year. Oh, Vulcan. Oh no, why? Did you get a raise at work or no, let's hear. Why would a return suck? I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you really want a really big return, because that means you gave them more money than they needed and they got to just hold on to that for a little while for you. I don't make much money, so my taxes are usually good. That is a fair way to look at things. I have no arguments, Gremlin. No arguments at all. There was a pay mess up, and I basically got paid 2 extra months that weren't taxed due to an accounting error. Oh shit! So you've got a hung up 2 months that are going to come in. Is that going to push you into a new bracket? Because I don't know if 2 months in general is going to be pushing you all the way into a new bracket, but yeah, it could probably mess up your expected return or amount you owe. But. Ooh, the hotel room I'm working from seems to have a view of the ocean, so at least that's a plus. Oh yeah, Marcial. Hell yeah. Well then. With our tax PSA out of the way and getting the opportunity to chat to see how all y'all are doing, I guess we get to talk a little bit about what is on today's You know what? I feel too small. I feel a little small. I don't know. Why do I feel smaller than usual? Let me just. Okay, let's just. All right, that's a little better. Oh no, I think I've always been that size, but just today, just looking, I felt small. Oh God, mercy. Okay, all right. No. Council, you are already deciding everything when it comes to building the characters when we get to that portion. God damn, y'all. We shall decide the class now. You are already gonna decide the class. Lord. All right. Come on, settle down, y'all. Force a habit. Yeah, Mercia, you've been burning those points. I'm just looking at my activity feed, and I got like 8 of those that we just got to do next time we play Mass Effect, I guess, because they're just sort of sitting there, and I don't know what to do with them. Circle of the Fungus Druid, Turtle Race. Okay. Hive Mind of Crab. All right, y'all. Now. We will be doing some character building, and I want you guys to store up these ideas so we can have some fun with it. But remember, this is a learning experience. This is a class that we are all taking simultaneously, including myself. As I find myself writing some of the shit down that I want to talk about, chatting with you guys about it, I too am just getting into a state of shit. I just realized I never really thought of it that way before, but yeah. That's a cool way to think about Dungeons and Dragons. And so today, we're getting into a big talk about building characters. During our last stream, we went over what is Dungeons and Dragons. Like, as a game, as an experience, what are the goals? What are the elements you need in it? The pieces you put together to play it? And then we learned a little bit about the most basic mechanics of the game. What type of actions you can take when you're in the turn-by-turn sort of minutia of the combat phases of Dungeons and Dragons. But now we're going to be getting into something that is, in a lot of ways, almost more integral to the experience of Dungeons and Dragons. Someone can tell you it's a collective storytelling game, and you might even understand, you might have played those types of games before, been like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Sometimes you might not, or just not really fully grasp it. However, this is the part that grounds players into the idea of telling a story. This is the element that gets people to start feeling like they're writing a tale. Because this is a piece of story writing here. Building a character. While making a character, there are a lot of things that go into it. There's creating the backstory, finding out motivations, figuring out strengths, weaknesses, all the flavor that goes into it. And we'll touch on all of that a bit when we go into our quick talk about races. But we're going to be, to continue from where we left off on our last stream, approaching things from the more mechanical side, getting things kind of locked in for how you do them, so that once you kind of have that understanding of the mechanics of making a character, really the experience of building it and playing with it are what start to hammer in a lot of the broader elements of it. What the fuck? What do you got? Corn person, a corn mancer. The name would be Colonel Cobb. Why are we talking about corn mancing? Lord. You know, I felt really passionate about what I was saying just a second ago. Yeah. All right. So, the very first element we're going to be discussing when it comes to building a character is the absolute mechanical foundation of each character. And that is an element within Dungeons and Dragons called class. Now, there are a lot of RPGs, tabletop RPGs, and just sort of character-based games out there. And quite a lot of them use classes, or are basically called a class-based system. There are other systems out there, skill-based system, point-based systems, that exist to break away from this sort of expectation or kind of this old standing methodology called the class-based system. But I think, in essence, for people who play games, the class-based system is the most easily recognizable. whether it's the really broad tank healer damage, whether it's kind of the rock, paper, scissors form of sword, spear, shield, or whether it's like how most tabletop RPGs work, where there's a collection of classes that all serve either a unique job or function within a group, or that are meant to grab a unique collection of effects or abilities. Mr. DM, will you accept our stupid ideas as homebrew for making the character? Because I really want this cornered. I don't think we have the time to pump out homebrew classes or races. We'll have to be building things based off of existing rules, at least today, I'm afraid. Because if we're going to get into building more than one character at the end, after class, then we're not going to have time to be building a fully functional homebrew racer class. I'm sorry, crazy. Oh, Lord. So, with this, I'm just going to start by kind of giving you the names of each of the classes. And then once we kind of have an idea of what classes are, we'll go into kind of breaking them apart, figuring out the best way to define them, and maybe how to pick them. So within Dungeons & Dragons, there is a large collection of classes, and there have even been classes, even in 5th edition, added after the initial Player's Handbook release. At this point, mostly it is simply the Artificer and the Blood Hunter, depending on which rule sets you go into. But for just a quick breakdown of what are the classes within Dungeons & Dragons. Oh, I miss advanced D&D where your race was your class. What's my job? I'm an elf. God. Love Doctor, I just have to say, someone who fucking grew up playing 4th edition, where that was my first experience of playing it, I do miss races being super integral to how you build your character, really defining some really unique bonuses that actually scaled with you. I never really played D&D Advanced, but I can only imagine where they were even more integral to everything. So let's hear. First we have the Barbarian, a fierce warrior of primitive background who can enter a battle rage. The Bard, an inspiring magician whose power echoes the music of creation. The Cleric, a priestly champion who wields divine magic in service of a higher power. A Druid, a priest of the old faith, wielding the powers of nature and adopting animal forms. Fighter, a master of martial combat, skilled with a variety of weapons and armor. The Monk, a master of martial arts, harnessing the power of body in pursuit of physical and spiritual perfection. The Paladin, a holy warrior bound to a sacred oath. The Ranger, a warrior who combats threats on the edge of civilization. Rogue, a scoundrel who uses stealth and trickery to overcome obstacles and enemies. Sorcerer, a spellcaster who draws on inherent magic from a gift or bloodline. A Warlock, a wielder of magic that is derived from a bargain with an extraplanar entity. And the Wizard, a scholarly magic user capable of manipulating the structures of reality. So, within the base rule set, we have 12 main classes to pick from. But I suppose all I've really said so far is that classes define the mechanics you're going to be playing with. Because that is the key element that a class brings is it tells you which mechanics you get to play with, whether it's magic, armor, weapons, or the like. Your class is what will define almost all features and actions available to you once it's been built. What is this multi-classing I have heard about? We could talk about that once we get into picking a class. All right. Because of this, the class is the fundamental mechanical foundation everything you do will be built off of. When you have an idea for a character or for a function you want to perform, the chief piece you always need to come to will be the class you are selecting. Within Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, there are a few things you get to pick when making a character. There's the race, the class, the background, and additional features. Each of these can add some mechanics, some unique elements to your character, but all of these will in one degree or another need to interact with the class, either trying to define a difference from the way the class usually performs or enhancing something that the class already does. Backgrounds and races will never, in 5th edition at least, fundamentally pull your character away from what their class is capable of doing. It can add flavor to it, it can twist it a little bit, or enhance it. But the class is the core that everything else about your character will expand from. And so with the class's importance being so fundamental, picking the right class is one of the most important first steps with making a character. For everything else you want to pick, since it will be influenced by this, you need to already have an idea of which class you're wanting to interact with. Now, there are a few ways that already exist to help divide the classes between each other, certain standards that get brought up, and we'll be talking about a few of those right now. But they're not always helpful, especially when you start getting into subclasses. For example, the most broad and commonly used definition between one class or another is the idea of a martial class and a magic class, or a caster. These are the two broadest groups of function that each class fits into. Martial classes being defined by their ability to use weapons, armor, and to make very powerful physical attacks with their equipment. Whereas casters are defined by being able to use magic, casting unique abilities that aren't based on attacking or direct hitting. They are also defined by not being able to access all weapons or armor proficiencies. However, this is something that falls into unhelpful territory with certain subclasses or even certain classes baseline. The first example I want to talk about is the Druid. The Druid is most commonly defined as a caster class. They can cast magic. They're not very good with using weapons without a lot of work going into the character. However, one of their chief abilities is being able to adopt an animal form, turning into a giant bear, boar, mammoth, something powerful and bestial that they then fight as. So a class that uses magic to turn into a giant bear and then starts engaging with the enemies in melee combat is something that's a little hard to define as just a caster or even as a pseudo-martial class. The druid, by its nature, is a blending. It definitely leans more heavily into the magic proportions, but there are places where it middles. Another two that operate in this middle ground are the paladin and the ranger. Paladins are able to use the heavy armor of fighters, have proficiency in all manner of weapons, and are good at making strong, powerful melee attacks. However, they also get an access to a small list of spells to help empower them, heal their allies, and to give their attacks even more oomph to it. They use magic to enhance their martial abilities. Because of this, they very obviously lean into being a martial class, but have casting. Casting that is integral to their personality, to their function, to how they work. As such, just trying to split classes into martial and caster are rather unhelpful at times, or might even give you the entirely wrong impression. One of the great examples is looking at warlocks. So, like Diablo, I would definitely say to a degree like Diablo. It's been years, honestly, since I played a Diablo game, but I know there's a lot of blending of functionality between, especially in the first and second game, their classes being really strong, but still kind of operating in a middle ground, essentially. So if a martial caster divide can be sort of helpful, its main thing is telling you whether a class can or can't use spells. However, then we can get into the idea of subclasses. As you build a class, you eventually arrive at a point where you move into subclasses, where you gain unique other abilities. Within the fighter subclass, you gain spell casting, converting what is a pure martial class into middle ground, something that operates with spells and martial, feeling somewhat like a paladin, but still unique in a way. Within the wizard class, there's the subclass of blade singing, which allows you to convert your magical abilities into speed, dexterity, and attack power, allowing you to use weapons in melee combat and to avoid damage and to deal damage, much like a martial class would, gaining the proficiencies you need to function there. So, at its core, broad rules to define the classes, to try to split them into really big groups, are almost always going to eventually break down. Looking at these divisions is helpful for your first few times playing, your first few times building a character. But really, the things you want to look at probably lean in a slightly different direction. Why can Pharaoh control knives? Is this some kind of hocus pocus? So within the cleric class, there's an ability called, I believe, Holy Weapon or Divine Weapon? Apologies, one moment. It's probably within the spellcasting list, but there's essentially a spell that allows clerics to summon in a holy representation of a weapon of their god. For Pharaoh, this is a dagger that they are allowed to give commands to. So the dagger will fly around cutting enemies, dealing radiant damage as its sacred weapon. Thank you very much, Wako. As it's more of a representation of a weapon than being an actual knife itself. So, since defining things out in this sort of martial caster isn't super helpful, it could give you an idea of the base functionality of a class, but doesn't tell you too much. Perhaps one of the other definers can be better. A very classic one is the idea of tank versus DPS. But here again, it doesn't quite work. One of the great examples would be the barbarian. The barbarian is oftentimes defined as being a tank class. They have the highest health point pool of any class in the game. They have an ability to rage, allowing them to take half damage. However, while they're raging, they also deal bonus rage damage per hit. As they level up, they could start taking reckless attacks, increasing their chance to hit or even crit. As they keep leveling up, they gain more and more attacks each round, allowing them to, with a large weapon, start dealing massive amounts of damage, split up however they would like. The rogue is another dominantly martial class, but that goes in a very different direction. They never gain inherently additional attacks or ways to basically wield larger, more damaging weapons. Instead, they're based around a feature called sneak attack, where when they attack an unprepared or distracted enemy, they get to deal large amounts of bonus damage at their later levels, going up to 10d6 of extra damage, or an average of about 30 extra damage when they hit. But since they only get to attack once a round by default, it can feel rather feast or famine at some points. At its core, the classes within D&D aren't so much trying to fulfill a role within the party. You might think, oh, we need ranged damage, but fighters, rangers are able to do this with martial classes using bows or other weaponry. Fighters even being able to dip into a subclass called gunslinger, while casters have this inherently. If you talk about, well, we need melee, well, then your casters like a blade-singing wizard or a hexblade warlock can drop into melee quite easily and function perfectly within it. Trying to define martial versus caster becomes muddy, as we've described. Trying to define tank versus damage dealer really comes more down to your build than the class itself. So instead, the best way to define each class is by the key features it gains at level 1, or by the additional features that the subclass will grant to it. Now, does this mean you need to know every class and every subclass before you can begin to build a character? Absolutely not. It is extremely helpful, I will say, when you know which subclasses can create absolute game-breaking bonuses to their usual class. But that's not so much what you need. Instead, what I say is the absolute first step to building a character is to have your character in mind. What is it you see them doing when they fight? What is the chief activities you want to see them able to do outside of combat as well? If anything, the best way to actually define their classes is by this number, or rather, this stat here. For barbarians, the primary ability is strength. Bards, charisma. Clerics, wisdom. Fighters, strength and dexterity. Paladins, strength and charisma. Dexterity, wisdom. Dexterity, intelligence, charisma. Charisma. This stat lets you know what abilities your character is going to be able to perform most easily. As a warlock, if you're building for your spells, you're always going to make sure you have a very high charisma. Because of this, you're inherently good at being charismatic outside of combat as well. As a rogue, your dexterity plays very important elements to combat. So if you're wanting to make a character that is stealthy, acrobatic, or good at sleight of hand, the rogue can take that and convert it into a combat ability. The first step in building a character, in choosing the class, isn't, in my opinion at least, role selection. It's finding out what you want to do. Are you imagining a role within a story as being an encouraging, helpful, and supportive person? Someone who is always cheering your party members on, providing support, but isn't the central killing machine. Bard, cleric, paladin, warlock. All of these can achieve that sort of job depending on how you see your character doing it. Luckily, within kind of the subconscious of the gaming community, many of these classes are already partially understood. When you hear bard, you already know to a degree storytelling, music, a level of magic to it. Clerics have a long-standing history of being healers. And while each of the classes can do more than what kind of is said on the tin, this can be the most helpful element for choosing that class. Now, the number one thing I would recommend whenever building a character is going out and finding videos that actually break down each class fully, kind of giving you a very in-depth look at them. It can be amazing to learn some of the things a class can do that most people either forget about, barely use, or just simply that gets looked over when a game is played. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through all 12 of the baseline classes, break down all their abilities, functions, subclasses, and everything else. We would be here for days, likely, if I tried to do every subclass. But I think the core of what I'm saying is what do you want to see? What's the story, the character, the element you want to highlight? And then from there, look into the classes that might best fit this role. If you see yourself as being brutish, large, intimidating, look into barbarian fighter. See which one of them provides you with the tools you need to do what you want to do best. If you want a character in tune with nature, the druid and the ranger give you a lot of tools to really play with that idea. At its core, the class, as the foundation everything else you do is built off of, should help you to do what you want. Should provide you with the features that'll allow your character to exist as you see them. So, with our little broad discussion of what the classes are, we're now going to take a very quick talk about something else. Within Dungeons and Dragons, I already talked about there being another element that goes into building a character. On top of your class, if the class is the core of you want, the base, the foundation, your race is mechanically the cherry on top, the fine detailing, the element that is sheer flavor, perhaps. Each race provides certain bonuses to whatever they're being played for. For example, elves provide a +2 dexterity bonus, meaning they naturally fit in with the more dexterous-based classes, whether that's fighter or rogue. Dwarves gain a bonus to constitution, meaning they fit very well into tankier classes. Half-orcs gain strength and the ability to get back up from really powerful hits. Humans are broadly useful in many different groups. Tieflings gain the use of some spells inherently. Many races exist to add bonuses. But that is not their chief function. It can be useful when trying to min-max a character to choose the race that'll best exemplify the class you're playing. But it's almost better to approach your race as that fine detail to the character you are building. After all, a cleric, dependent on wisdom, trying to prove something, being a healer, a martyr in many ways, someone that they want the whole party to grow to trust and care about them, could benefit greatly from choosing a race to put them into a position that creates an immediate sort of visual gap. After all, a tall, standing, orcish cleric praising to a god of healing and light can strike people for a moment. Tieflings, with their devilish skin and large horns, could also create a very interesting element to things. The most broad thing when it comes to trying to play around with races is speaking with your DM. Especially if there's going to be played in a homebrew world, the exact position, trust, and mental stereotypes about these different groups might change broadly in one fantasy world to another. In a world, one world might have dwarves being seen as master crafters, noble, honorable, broad, and stocky, or another paints them as greedy, reclusive, isolationist. Because of this, trying to use them to highlight certain story ideas, certain character motifs you're trying to build, can come down more to a conversation with your DM than anything else. Your race, then, can help you min-max. It can provide you stat bonuses or ability bonuses to help highlight the power of the class you have chosen, to push it forward from a starting position into something that just begins very powerful. But more often than not, your race will be more based on a combination of what is a race that will work with my class's chief stat: strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, charisma, but also allows me to add that coating, the paint, the flavor to the character I am building, to the effect I want them to have. a stealthy, hidden type character would obviously work very well with rogue and the more dexterous classes, like gnome or halfling, being small and hard to see. However, another type of sneak, someone who likes to lie and trick their way in, might like the changeling, not even due to charisma, but due to their ability to shift into people they've seen in the past. Oh god, what are you guys talking about? Love me dwarves. Simple as. Well, that and the beast races. Luxodons, Minotaur were fun as hell. Never actually played much with the beast races, Doctor. Is there anything in particular you really like about them? Let's hear. Do I have Luxodons on here? Yeah, here we go. Hammering horns. Imposing presence. Trunk. Luxodons have a feature just called Trunk. Holy crap. Ah, no, I don't own them. No, well. I want to know what that trunk feature does. Dwarfs, gnomes, halflings all look the same to me. All 20 people. Well, that's interesting because gnomes are aggressively shorter than the other two races you mentioned. Kenku until I die. Yeah. So I think you'll find when building a character, while you can definitely min-max your race and class together to make something very powerful, this generally only happens in one-shot or modular quests. When it comes to a full campaign, your race is almost never chosen purely for the stat. The race and class will be chosen to exemplify the character you have in mind. So that is my chief thing to say. Whenever you're building a character, coming up with them, making their backstory and everything else, first and foremost, you're telling a story with your friends. Find that role that you want your character to fill, the story type you want to tell, the themes you would love to explore with your friends as you're playing. Once you have all that in mind, then choosing the race and class and massaging the stats a bit to allow yourself to function fully within fights or within RPG moments can create some of the best characters in certain scenes. How much does a race and class tell about a person? How do you mean, Marcia? Like, well, do you want like a, if you pick this class, you're definitely this type of person type of thing? Or are you trying to say like within a universe? As for the Luxodon trunk, you can grab something with your trunk and even strangle someone by wrapping your trunk around the opponent's neck. Telling a story? No, I'm just becoming an onion. Yeah, sour cake, but I think that's because in your mind you have a very interesting and specific story and up there, don't you? The story of this tiny little creature that absolutely destroys things it comes across, that gathers valuables on top of itself and presents itself ostentatiously, yet is kind of set as a gap between the things it does and how it appears. Or would you say I'm wrong? Would you say there isn't a comedic gap moe story that you're trying to tell with Onion? Because I believe you are, Sour. Alright. Alright. But with that sort of chat out of the way, with kind of a breakdown of how I like to approach races and classes, perhaps it's time for all of us to have a bit of fun. Yeah, like X class and X race and X class equals X personality in a person. Just an approximate. All right. We can take 1 minute. I'll look through all of the classes, and I will give you guys a quick breakdown of what I think the personality of the person who is taking this class tends to be. Okay? Now, don't lock me into any of this. I'm probably going to play up the ridiculousness of some of the expectations, but give me a moment. The fact that you think I have any thoughts beyond just haha being lizard is funny means you're really overestimating me. Hey, I told you it was a funny little story. I said the story in your mind was comedic. The idea of a funny lizard doing devastating damage. All right. Barbarian. Who picks barbarian? All right. If you chose to play a barbarian, it's because you had in your mind this idea of a dishonored character exiled into the world for something they did that maybe was or wasn't their fault. And now they're just roaming around, joining up with the first group they see. In every game I have ever played, there have been barbarians exiled for a wrongdoing, just looking for a group to be with and fight. In fact, I'm going to say I was once in a campaign where 3 different characters, 3 players who did not talk beforehand, all came in and presented their characters. We had a human barbarian exiled from his tribe after killing someone in a duel. A dwarvish barbarian exiled from his tribe from accidentally killing a man by giving him too powerful of an alcoholic beverage. And an orcish barbarian exiled from his tribe for refusing to destroy a village that they were raiding. All 3 of them met up and had the funniest conversation of my life where all of them pointed at each other in the classic fucking Spider-Man meme going, "Wait, you were exiled?" Let's hear. Bard. People who choose Bard chose Bard because they've heard all the memes about bards being horny and think they're going to make something unique and clever with the class, only to learn there are so many features here that they have to balance that their initial plans go out the window to just babysitting the party in all events. Cleric. If you choose Cleric, you've chosen Cleric for 1 or 2 reasons. The first is this is your first ever game and you understand what a cleric is. And you're like, I'll just heal the party, hang out in the back, and try to keep things as simple as possible. The other reason is you've played a lot of D&D and you found out nobody was playing a cleric this game. And you're about to min-max those motherfuckers into worshiping the ground you walk on. Druid. You chose Druid because you had already decided you're going to be either a Furbolg or an Elf, and you couldn't really think of a better class to choose. And now that you're in it, you're realizing, oh shit, these abilities are really unique. And so you plan to play this again in the future, but you almost end up never doing it again. Fighter. People who choose Fighter are people who regularly play D&D. You just want things to be fundamentally straightforward. You want to just get bonuses to everything and to not have any negatives stacked up on your head and to take a back seat and let other people drive the story forward. Monk. If you choose to be a monk, it's because you have a really, really cliche but cool idea in your head of some sort of noble monk fighter moving around the world and becoming a peaceful soul. But at the end of the day, you become the most violent member of the party, murdering people to death by punching them repetitively into a state of coma. Because once you become a monk, you lose all chill in combat. How this transition from personalities to who chooses each class. I don't know, man. This is the best thing I could do from the request that was given to me. Let's hear. Paladin. People who choose Paladin think pretty highly of their character's personality. This isn't people who think of themselves as being really good or really noble or anything, but these are people who have immediately decided their character is the goodest or most misunderstood member of the party. They have decided this without talking to anyone else and will play their character as if they are the arbiter of good for normal paladins or the arbiter of how evil the party can be if they're a fallen paladin. Ranger. If you chose Ranger, it's because you have never played D&D before, and your only ideas are of Rangers being characters like from Lord of the Rings, being martial classes that have a lot of cool abilities, and you are utterly befuddled by the amount of spells that you suddenly have to manage. That, or you like to play Pokemon, and you knew that this was the only class that would give you a big bear companion that'll follow you around and be your buddy. People who play Paladin have no clue how to play Lawful Good. To be fair, when you're actually playing a D&D campaign, a lot of times it seems nobody really understands how to play a lawful character. Rogue. People who actually choose to play Rogue have decided they are going to be the most important side character in every scene. They either want to be the character who sits in the dark corner with my hood pulled up, but I'm not giving any info. I'm not the main character. I'm just the most important side character in the room. Or because they know nobody has brought in any proficiencies with any skills, so whenever any plan gets formed, they're going to be the person in charge of sneaking into places, opening locks, finding traps, sneaking out of places, lying to people, stealing from people, or just every task that someone else needs to get done. The rogue will show up and be the most important side character in that scene. Sorcerer. You become a sorcerer because you learned about meta magic. Nobody picks sorcerer by accident. Nobody has first time playing chosen to be a sorcerer. This only happens because someone explained to you what meta magic was, and the idea of creating 2 spells at once seemed so badass that you only too late realize you are in over your head as you are casting 12 spells a turn and don't know how to turn it off. Let's see here. People who pick Warlock are the same people who write you 12 pages of backstory. This could be in both the positive and negative way. This could be the person that has actually written and edited a fucking story about their character's life history or past that has led them to this moment, and honestly, everyone loves to read. Or this is the person that has written 20 pages of their character being the most badass character that's ever existed, and everyone thinks they're super awesome. People who become warlocks already have the entire story plotted out for everybody involved, and while they might be good to adjust once other characters come in, they're going to see if they can make sure everything goes one way for them. Finally, wizard. If you're playing wizard, it's very similar to the warlock, but instead of having 12 pages of backstory, you're the person that shows up with a fucking printed out Excel sheet explaining to everybody around you what needs to happen every round of combat to get the most value out of your character. You have already planned every possible combat ahead of time and know all the vulnerabilities of monsters, all the spell slots you need, and everything else that has been plotted out, and you just want everybody in combat to let you do the thing so that things can go in their proper, efficient order. If it's oh whoa, then it has to be a tabaxi. Yep, that's how tabaxi speak. Everyone knows that. Oh, Lord. Okay, that's what I got, y'all. So now let's actually get into some of the fun shit. and let's do some character building. Now, we've had a redeem kind of come in, but I already wanted you guys to be making most of the decisions here. So, we're going to get into this. And like I said, the way I like to build a character, and so this very first time we're building it, I'm going to impose this upon you guys, okay? 1 second as I just get ourselves set up to have kind of races and classes easy to view. There we go, while we're building. Cornmancer, God. Okay, so we're going to be trying to fill a role in a story or a role on the battlefield. Let's start getting a few ideas out there. I've seen someone say the Cornmancer, and while we can't do that literally, we can try to see how close we're going to get there. But even if we go with Cornmancer, I'm still going to want more of a personality breakdown. So I want everybody to throw out like character motifs, personality ideas, role ideas. And we're gonna throw a few of those up on a poll, and y'all are gonna decide the character we're making. Hey, Little Pink! Thank you for the resub. Teach Eric Teach? Hell yeah. Fun fact about AD&D Scion. You literally enter a battle of wits with enemy Scions. You enter a mini encounter that lasts 2 hours out of game, and eventually ends up with one person's head exploding, since interaction is 1 second in game. Sometimes it's just a 1/10 of a second. You turn a corner and head go boom. Okay. We demand Cornmancer. All right, I'll throw Cornmancer in, but is corn not personality? God. Akbar. Oh, hey, Sour, thanks for these things. Whatever they do. Lost his farm due to tax evasion. Now seeks revenge. Corn is the only important personality. A Cornmancer. Try a necromancer that wants to outsource working with his skeletons. His name, Rogan. His plan, Roganomics. Jesus. Corn is a personality in the Midwest. Ooh! Ooh, okay. No. That's actually very helpful. Now I'm getting a bit of an idea of what this Cornmancer is. I'm now picturing a very inept caster, actually. Like a Midwestern hick. Like I'm thinking something like a paladin or an Eldritch Knight fighter. Something that is way more martial. Just like an absolutely like cowboy or cowgirl type person. Hey, you know, just mostly grew up hanging around the farm around corn and shit. Oh, but I'm also a Cornmancer. But all their magic is flavored where it's just like corn kind of doing something, you know? Like suddenly there's a corn popping noise, or they can summon an ear of corn and throw it at an enemy. Almost like a really inept caster who tries to play it off like they're a main caster, but is really just a Midwestern fucking big boy. I like that. I really like this idea of a Midwestern Cornmancer now. All right. So we got one of our suggestions, y'all. Okay. Come on, we need more suggestions if we're gonna create a poll, though. So come on, throw out a few more ideas at me. Or are you guys just gonna talk about the Cornmancer until we make it, and only after that will you guys have some stuff? Oh gosh. Fine. No, it seems, you know, I'll put up the poll still. I'll put up the poll so you can all vote on what is first character. And our options are Midwest Cornmancer or anything else. There you go. Poll is live. I know. And really, I already know what this poll is gonna be, but I'm putting it up so you all can fucking voice your goddamn cancer. You know, I'm gonna vote in this as well. Let's see if we can tilt these scales at all. All right, y'all. The poll is live, so if there's something you want us to start with, you better get voting. We've got about 30 seconds left. Drowns people in corn syrup. Ah, shit. That could be fun. All right, so next we'll kind of build this personality a little bit so we can figure, because while I love the idea of the inept caster, Midwestern cornmancer, some of your ideas are sounding a lot more like a very dangerous cornmancer. So we'll see kind of what type of personality we like. So we're definitely doing the cornmancer. All right. So we'll get the poll out then for like, how powerful is the cornmancy? Like, this is epic corn control. Is this pretty average magic, but corn? Is this the inept caster just a hick? Can I not do hick? Just a cowboy. All right, poll is live. Maybe their parents died in a farm explosion, wanted to reanimate, but had to search the remains of their parents scattered around a huge cornfield, so they walked around for days and weeks and went kind of mad. There's a very big bird that eats anything covered in popcorn. All right, y'all, get your votes in for what you want. I'm voting right now, and I'm just telling you, I want the inept caster. I want someone that talks up their cornmancy, but has no ability to back it up whatsoever. Okay. Let's see what you guys got. All right, we got less than 30 seconds. If you want to vote to tilt these scales at all, this is your chance to get your votes in. Perhaps the corn aspect is more like that of a warlock patron, where the whispers of the corn actually have been a result of loneliness. All right, epic corn control, cornmancer. Okay. I feel like we need one more element to really tie home the class and race we're picking between. So we have an idea of like the level of magic they want. We're definitely going to be falling within the section of the most dominant magic users. So sorcerer, warlock, wizard, because we want this to be epic control and not average magics. So we're going to have to go here. We're getting some Midwestern energy, which can definitely inform. So the main thing I talked about was a big deal was looking at that main trait you want. And so looking between these types of casters to really narrow it down for epic control. Let's hear. And I'll throw people are talking about druid, and druid could be interesting as well. So our last one is going to be, what is our main stat then? Is this a wise character? Is this a character that knows everything you need to know about growing and maintaining corn because they've done it before and they are a proud person? Is this an intelligence? Is this someone that has studied corn and corn control for a long period of time? Maybe due to a tragic backstory like their parents' death, they needed to study every book of cornmancy to develop these abilities. It wasn't something that derived from their farm and experiences, but from their search for answers. Or will this be a charisma based, something in their bloodline or something gifted to them, something that shines through in their abilities? This wasn't about study or a connection to the land. This was due to a legacy, a destiny of corn power. All right, poll is up and live. Get your votes in. Are we connected to our farm? our farm is the source of our corn powers? Did we have to study cornmancy over an extended period of time to develop an intellectual approach to the magic of corn manipulation? Or is this a legacy of corn magic only through generations of dedication to our craft did our family eventually create us, the epitome of cornmancy? All right, we got less than 20 seconds, so get your votes in. It looks like it's between wisdom and charisma. Who will come out on top? And it seems like charisma. So that narrows it down a bit. Now, I'm going to make an argument here for which one of these I really like for what we've described so far. So, as an idea for a character, we've come up with this Midwest corn hick. We wanted them to have a tragic backstory. I know that was talked about. Sold their soul to the great corn in the sky. But the most important thing we talked about was epic corn manipulation. And so between the sorcerer and the warlock, that gives us two ways to approach epic magic. The sorcerer, with their ability to craft spells, to basically split cast multiple spells at once, to have more concentration spells going on, to create wider effects, more controlled effects, has this sort of wide, vast sea of corn approach. Whereas warlocks specialize in having a small number of very powerful spells. Imagine dropping one silo of corn on the enemy, as opposed to creating a sea of corn to drown them in. So this is our final decision then. Is what is our epic? Are we a sea of corn magic? Do we have absolute control over our spells? Do we create vast waves of grain? Or are we powerful? What is the best word for this, I guess? Powerful eruptions of corn. Not the sea of corn that the sorcerer can do, but small instances of explosive corn magic. The poll is live, and the decision need be made. What is our epic? The full manipulation of corn into seas of grain that will consume our enemies, or singular explosions of concentrated corn magic, something with a lower field of effect, but more concentrated. You have less than 30 seconds to get into this. Soon, the decision will be made. Oh, perhaps we will talk about this then. Because right now, it seems we have a tie. All right. So now we're actually going to take a quick moment to talk about something in D&D called multi-classing. As you play D&D, you do not lock yourself into a single class when you pick it. Most people will only use a single class as they play, but instead, as you play, you eventually level up. And each time you level up, you choose to take a level in a class. For example, say we are a level 2 warlock roaming about, and then our DM tells us excitedly, all right, you've hit level 3. Instead of meaning we've hit level 3 warlock, instead we have hit level 3 as a character. So we get to then put our 3rd level into any class we want. We can put it into warlock and become a level 3 warlock, or we can put it into sorcerer and become 2 levels in warlock, 1 level in sorcerer. As we have tied with what we're going to do, what our epic of magic is, it sounds like we're going to be a split warlock sorcerer. And so the way we're going to do this is going to be, we're going to make a level 2 character for now, just so we could take a look at everything this allows us to do, and I suppose learn a bit about both classes pretty early on. So our next step then is to pick our race. We know what classes we're going to go into, but now we need to pick a race. And based on our story, this idea of Midwestern makes it feel very grounded, very simple and straightforward type of character, you know? Someone you'd see roaming around on a corn farm. Maybe a little backwoodsy, maybe not. Because of this, I think we get a good idea of some of the types we might like to see. Furbolgs are known to be remote forest dwellers, somewhat isolationist and in tight groups, which is very similar to how you might imagine a Midwestern farming family. Humans are always an interesting staple to go into for this type of thing. They are most adaptable, as we are ourselves human, to fitting into almost any type of character we could think of. Unfortunately, I don't believe fairy exists in 5th edition, V. Other more kind of simple characters we could look for. We could look into the bugbear, more of a monstrous being, not really known for domesticating plants and the like, but kind of gives you a very interesting kind of backwoodsy fella coming out of nature all of a sudden. As well as the Goliath. Yeah. I think I really like those. Alright, I'll put up a poll then for a class to pick from. Or a race, I mean. So what race? Because the ones I like are Furbolg, Goliath, Bugbear, and a Shifter. I think this creates a bit of an interesting group of races to look into. I want him to, oh, whoa, speak. No, Terramon, none of that. So, for those who are curious, though, a quick look. The Bugbear gets +2 to Dexterity. No, Strength gets +2, and Dexterity gets +1, which doesn't really help us with either of the classes we're picking. The Furball gets +2 to Wisdom and Strength +1. Again, not so great into the Charisma base we're going for. The Goliath, let's see here. I'm not seeing their stats, but I believe they have a Constitution bonus, which is also not super helpful. And then Shifters, I think, have a Dexterity and Wisdom as well. So none of these races are actually going to help us with this class, but I think gives us the most flavor for what we're building. All right, looks like a Shifter. Oh, I've seen that kobolds get stronger in groups. Does that fall completely flat if there's only one kobold in the party? Not at all, Marcial. The main things kobolds have are ways to distract enemies to give their allies bonuses, or to gain bonuses when they have allies adjacent to them. They do not need these allies to be kobolds, so they work in any group that fights close together. Meaning if you're going to be martial with a kobold, you want to be in a party that has at least 2 other martial classes, if you can help it, to get as many people close and tight with you while you're fighting. So let's hear. So it sounds like we're going for Shifter. Shifter, however, has a few sub-races that I'm going to take a quick look at. So what do you get? Wisdom 2, Dexterity 1. Is that going to be all the sub-races? Because on the sub-race, I'd like to see if we could get Charisma. Ooh, shit! We get a Charisma +1 for the... What are these boys? The Swift Stride. What does Longtooth do? Alright. Alright. And Beast Hide. Constitution and trait. All right. So only one of these is going to give us a charisma bonus. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose that sub race. Because this one, the Swift Stride, is going to give us at least a small bonus to the class we're doing, which is going to be important for us to grab. Swift Striders are graceful and quick. Typically feline in nature, Swift Striders are often aloof and difficult to pin down physically or socially. Well, that sounds quite a bit like what we're going for. The Shifter could be purely flavor. We could say that they were a human, but the corn magic has altered their appearance, making them seem more corn-like. Also, doesn't the change rules from Tasha let you move bonuses around, or is that not on the site? So I don't know if Tasha's is fully released on D&D Beyond, but yes, Tasha's is working right now to remove a lot of the boundaries between different races. I don't think Tasha's is fully released anywhere, actually, but essentially right now Wizards is putting out a book with the idea of making race almost non-mechanically influential to the game. Basically allowing you to choose the bonuses for your character and just having the race as either a bit of story element or more of just a coat of paint over the type of character you're playing. So, with this race, we get a few things, though. We get Dark Vision, which is useful. As a bonus action, we can assume a more bestial appearance. We get a +2 to our dexterity and +1 to our charisma. We are graceful. And we have shifting features. Interesting. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and pick our starting class. I'm going to go ahead and add a warlock, but then I'm going to put us to level 2. Oh, no. No, level 1 warlock. And we are going to... Let's see, there's a way to just add another class. There we go. And we're going to go 1 level into sorcerer to kind of capture all the things we're wanting. Oh, hey, Crazy Sat. Thank you. Races would only really matter in the highly min-max necessary campaigns. Would that be even fun? Yeah, I know. Like I said, I like to picture the character and then choose a race to kind of flavor into what I have imagined for sort of the character role I'm filling. When you want to min-max, the races can be kind of fun to add in a few extra features. I have a character based on trying to roll as many 2d6s as possible, so I picked the Bugbear because of their feature that allows you to add an extra 2d6 once per combat. But most of the time, I actually find myself going with a variant human just to get an extra feature to add even more random shit to the class I'm doing, because I just love adding boundaries or adding in just really specific features. When I feel I've made a successful character is when I get to say, all right, so I made a barbarian, but they dual wield finesse weapons, meaning they are really dexterous and don't deal damage, but are impossible to hit. All right, I made a warlock, but they can use heavy armor. So they like to go into combat and cast spells that center around themselves. Basically, I love adding in features that allow me to say how a class behaves and just add just a little twist on it to just give it just this wait, what sort of element. So that's kind of where I tend to go a lot when I make characters, is grabbing races that allow me to just add a little bit of a, so this is how they play, but, and that's where I feel I've really made something that I love. So here we go. So since we have the warlock class, the first thing that this is going to do is choose our hit die, which is basically going to determine our hit points. Lucky for us, D&D Beyond does most of that calculation itself, but this is a key point for knowing how healthy your character is. Next, we get a look at proficiencies. From Warlock, we gain proficiency in light armor, simple weapons, so we have some stuff we can do in a martial direction, but not a lot. Also, we get some skills to pick from for what we're good at. So first thing, I think, is nature. As a Corn Mancer, we have to be really in tune with nature and able to really get that stuff up and going, you know? So that's just something we should already know. Next, what do you guys think? I think Arcana makes a lot of sense, since we seem to have gotten kind of in tune with magic, but also an idea of a history or intimidation focus could be really cool for our Cornmancer. History, if we see them as being someone who's very tied in with, like, telling the stories of their family, like knowledge passed down through the generations. And intimidation, if we just want this motherfucker to roll up on people, go, hey, what are you doing in my cornfield? You know you aren't supposed to be here. In fact, honestly, I fucking love that. I'm sorry. I'm choosing this for you guys. Y'all are too slow. Gotta go fast. Finally, the chief piece of a warlock is their patron. The patron is where we have gotten our powers from. Basically, a being that exists that has lended their magic to us. We have a few options here. Archfey, Celestial, Fiend, Great Old One, a Hexblade, or an Undying. What I'm going to say is the ones I like are Archfey, Great Old One, and Undying for us. That being because Archfey tend to be bound to nature, which works for our Cornmancer. Great Old Ones are unknowable beings, so they can lead to so many weird things connecting to a cornfield, like crop circles and that sort of shit. And the Undying, I think, really evokes the imagery of one day the scarecrow got down off its post and started talking to us. The Hexblade, I don't think works very well. The Fiend is fine, works with everything, but doesn't kind of fit into the character we're playing with. And the Celestial, although we do like angels, I really like the other three a lot more. So I think I'm going to put up a poll for you guys to choose from those three. Who's our patron? Is it the Corn Fae? Is it the Great Old Corn? Or no, the Great Crop Circle? Or is it the Scarecrow? All right, poll is live. Vote. Do we get our power from the Corn Fae, the Great Crop Circle, or the Scarecrow? What came to us and taught us the power of cornmancy? While partial to the old one, you make a damn good point for that Scarecrow. Corn for the corn god. Damn, y'all. We got less than 30 seconds left. What will it be? All right. Last chance to vote. And the winner is the undying Scarecrow. Now, what we have here is pact magic. This essentially allows us to cast spells. And so because we can cast spells, we also get an expanded spell list. These are things that the Scarecrow itself would allow us to play around with. And we also gain the feature Among the Dead. This means we have learned the Spare the Dying cantrip. Additionally, undead have a difficulty harming us. We are protected by the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow scares away the dead as well as the birds, protecting us from those who would pick from our flesh. I'm loving this. I'm loving this already. So now, we'll go ahead and pick some of our warlock spells. So here, we get 2 cantrips. So let's think. Let's look at what we got. Green Flame Blade? No, we're in a cornfield. We shouldn't be throwing out fire. Eldritch Blast, I think, is really good because Eldritch Blast is an ability you get to flavor however you want. And I like the idea of us saying it is fucking stalks of corn being shot out. What else is there? Toll the Dead. Ooh, the ringing. Ringing of the Scarecrow's bell. True Strike? No, we're not even talking about True Strike. I do like Scarecrow commands the crows. So your Poison Spray. Infestation. Ooh. Cause a cloud of mites, fleas, and other parasites to appear momentarily on the creature you can see within range. No. Suddenly, corn starts falling out of their clothing, distracting them and causing them to panic. Toll the Dead is one of the best spells out there. Okay. All right. Minor Illusion, Prestidigitation. We can summon corn. Yeah. Okay. So I'm putting a poll up. These are going to be what cantrips? We're going to have Eldritch Blast, Minor Illusion, Infestation. So here, what was the other one that people really liked the idea of? So it's like the Toll the Dead for the sound the Scarecrow makes. Oh, yeah. And Poison Spray, also known as Corn Spray. Now, we can only have 2 cantrips, as you can see here. But we'll get this poll up, and I'll see what the top 2 most popular spells we grab are. So get your votes in on what cantrips we should know. And I'll be picking the top 2 voted ones here, so get your shit in and try to sway the curve. In Crop Station. I think we should rename it to Suddenly Corn. All right. We are almost done with the poll, so get your votes in. And the two spells we will be grabbing are Eldritch Blast and Infestation, both to flavor however we want. We also get to pick 2 level 1 spells. Ooh, Cause Fear sounds really good for our relationship with our Scarecrow. So I'm going to lean pretty heavily towards Cause Fear. We also have Charm Person, Comprehend Language, Expeditious Retreat, False Life, Hellish Rebuke. When we're hit, we strike back. Illusory Script, Protection from Evil and Good, and Unseen Servant. All right, I think I'm going to just kind of right now say, with our connection to our Scarecrow, I think we just take Cause Fear. That's too good. So now we need to think of what the second spell we know is. What do you guys think? Looking at these spells up here, what do you all like? How does our Cornmancer fight? They like to summon corn or do spells that use corn to attack. Not a lot of combat spells here, really. I think Hellish Rebuke might be the only kind of combat spell. It only happens when we get attacked, but when we get attacked, we could have corn pop out of us and attack the enemy back, yeah? Only if we could have Hellish Rebuke attached to our corn instead of ourselves. That's true. Still, I think Hellish Rebuke sounds really cool. Call it the poppening. Whenever we take damage, we throw popped corn back at the enemy. There we go. All right. And so with that, we have our spells picked. So we'll get into Sorcerer. Now, this only has one choice, and that's our Origins. This describes the source of the innate parts of our magical power. A draconic bloodline. Perhaps something else entirely like wild or storm magic. So, from where does our sorcerer power comes from? The same Scarecrow. Unfortunately, that doesn't quite work. We can have a divine soul, meaning we are of a legacy tied to divine beings. A draconic soul, meaning one of our relatives in the distant past fucked a dragon. Shadow magic, meaning a darkness has always been present on this farm, and that darkness has seeped into our bloodline. Storm magic, the power of the elements at our fingertips. Our family's always been closely tied to the land, and now the land has become tied to us. Or wild magic. No one fucking knows. Just always been here. Our family's just like that. You know, I don't really like the divine or draconic for us, but I think Shadow, Storm, and Wild all sound pretty good. Let's get that poll up. Sorcerer Origin. Shadow, Storm, or Wild. Poll is live. But I want wild magic. Then vote for wild magic. Oh god, are all of you just wanting the wild magic chart? Oh god, you guys just want the wild magic chart, don't you? Alright, well, we're down below 30 seconds, so get your votes in. Let's see what fucking happens, y'all. What is the fucking character you're gonna give me? Holy shit. Oh no. Y'all just want to randomly turn people into corn on the cob, don't you? That's what you want. You want every spell to fail. Go on the wild magic chart and get the potted plant option. Oh, fuck. Alright. Wild magic. Alright. And then we can go into sorcerer and pick our spells. Now this one we get even more cantrips. So let's see here. Anything that seems really corn. I remember, ooh, mold earth. I really like just grabbing mold earth. Just so we can, you know, shape the, oh, and shape water. That sounds like that would help with farming corn. Ray of Frost, Thunderburst. No, so let's hear. Thunderclap. Create a burst of sound. Each creature within the range takes damage. Okay. Sword Burst could be fun. Make another way do we do an explosion of corn. Make everything taste like corn and butter. Yep. Okay, we're taking prestidigitation. Fire Bolt. Booming Blade. Ooh, yeah. Thunderclap to scare off the crows. I like it. We'll take that. What else do we get? We get also 2 more first level spells. Fog Cloud could be kind of interesting for the scarecrow idea, but let's see. Oh no, Magic Missile. Each of them is a corn. Each of them is corn. We're throwing corn at people. Just getting that in right now. Earth Tremor. Ooh, Earth Tremor could be cool. Chaos. Catapult. Wait. Choose an object weighing 1 to 5 pounds within range that is being worn to carry. Object flies in a straight line and yeah, nope. Sorry. No matter what you guys are saying, we are catapulting corn. Oh fuck. Nope. Fuck. I'm sorry. We are taking catapult to throw corn at people at ungodly speeds. Yeet! Alright, y'all. Alright. Cornapult! Hell yeah. Alright. And now we get into the most mathematically important part of character building. This is choosing your actual stat line. Now, there are 3 main methods people choose when picking your stats. They include the standard array, which gives you an array of 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is kind of your most standard way and most average starting stats. For example, since charisma is so important to us, charisma will always take our highest number of 15. However, since our subclass gets us a +1, that puts us over to 16. Next, let's think. As a corn person, I think wisdom is relatively important. So we might do 14 in wisdom. We're kind of stocky, you know, so 13, and we work a lot. We're not very smart, so we'll do kind of an array like this. Once you kind of pick the stats and where you want them for your character, you now get your totals, which give you your most important number, your modifier. So strength of +1, dex of +1, constitution of +1. Pretty generic stats there, I guess. Charisma of +3, wisdom of +2, and intelligence of -1. Now, another system is the point buy system. This, you start with 8s, and then you can buy additional points. For example, we have 27 points remaining, so we can spend 9 points to put this up to 15. We also kind of liked having a little bit of wisdom. But maybe we know we get a big bonus to dexterity, so getting our dexterity a bit higher. And then splitting our last few points will get us something a bit more like this, which really more concentrates. but I could see what people want. And so the system we're going to do is called manual roll. Now, manual roll can be very different between different games because the exact rules for it are always determined by your DM. The essential idea of it is you will always roll at least 3d6 die. Basically, you get a range of up to 18 for the stats you can have. And you'll roll it at least 6 times. 1 for each of your stat blocks, essentially. But I'm going to show you kind of how I do it. So, what I do is 46, drop the lowest. Which this means is it decreases your chance of getting utterly shit numbers across the board, but won't protect you entirely from the hands of fate. Secondly, instead of rolling 6 times, I let my players roll 7 and then drop the lowest. This, again, gives you an extra layer of protection from having 2 really shit stats and is likely to allow you to have only 1 dump stat when you're playing. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to roll 7 times then with 46. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're going to drop the lowest from all these rolls and just sort of math out what our numbers are. So in our first roll, we'll drop a 2, so we get 5 plus 5, so that is a 10. Next, we're going to drop a 1, and we get a 4. So we get 2 6s and a 3, so that is a 15. Another 15. Ooh, that is a 16. 12. And another 15. So, here are our 7 numbers. 10, 4, 15, 15, 16, 12, 15. This is some pretty fucking decent starting stats, if I may say so. Nothing outlandish. We didn't pull any 17 or 18s here. So, nothing we can really throw away. We've got to get the 4 in there. We definitely can, Wacko. With the way I rolled, we could drop the 4. But I want to know what you guys think. What we dropping? Drop the 4 or drop the 10? This is also another really fun thing with letting players roll 7 times and then pick 6 of those numbers. Is sometimes when players roll really average across the board, but have one unique number, whether it's low or high, players really love to play with at least one really unique number. So having an extra roll also increases the chances of seeing a very unique number. And gotta be wisdom. Who reasonably trusts Scarecrow? Oh, damn. Are we gonna have a roll off to see where we put this 4? I'm excited. Oh, shit. Thank you for the gifted sub, Wacko. Was that just random, or are you sending that to who? Matt ARG? Oh, shit. Hey. A character isn't good if the int isn't lower than a troll's. Damn, y'all. So we're dropping the 10. All right, y'all. We could drop the 10. Hey, this is Matt ARG's first time here, though, Terramon. Though I won't deny it. Hey, Matt ARG. I'm afraid Terramon has, pulled a redeem for you. And because of that, I've got something I've got to say. And that is, Ara. Ara. Alright, you fucking weirdos. Now you gotta decide where this 4 is going. Yo. Where go 4? And I think the 2 spots we really like are intelligence. Yeah, you were here a little while ago. I think it has been a minute since I've seen you here, but I could tell that you're not a first-time chatter at all. I think Wako just hates it whenever anyone shows up and isn't subbed. Or wisdom. Yeah. Alright. I could see what you guys want. So make the decision. The poll is live. Where are we putting this 4? While you guys are deciding that, I will drop our 16 and our 1, 2, 3 15s. Just where they need to go. So charisma is going to be a 16. And then what? 15, 15, 15. Damn, this boy pretty fucking statted. Alright, the poll is almost done, y'all. Oh shit. Well, it looks like... It looks like it's going in wisdom. We are the type of person that trusts everyone we meet and has never seen a bad day in our life because we can barely see anything. Holy shit. I don't know how I feel about a farmer with no understanding of nature, but it is rather beautiful, isn't it? So, with our stats decided, we're going to move on to our background. You know what? Actually, I think I'm going to skip background on this. Background is something that adds a little something extra when you're playing. Maybe a couple extra proficiencies, sometimes a little bit of a bonus feature, like an ability to find churches or the like. And I don't feel like nothing we've really defined in our character, I think, requires any of the background stuff. Wait, nature is wisdom? My knowledge of proficiencies is not what it used to be. I don't think they have a farmer background. I'll take another look. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's just farmer. Most backgrounds are something like a noble, a sage, a soldier, a fucking criminal, a folk hero. And I don't know. I don't really like most of these. So I think we're just going to skip them for now. And then we're going to take a look at this character sheet that we have produced, y'all, and see what type of character we have. So, meet our character, the swift-striding warlock sorcerer, also known as the Corn Mancer. With our decently high charisma and dexterity, we actually could probably not only cast spells on the battlefield, but avoid being hurt pretty well. Put some light armor with us with this +3 dexterity, and we can have an armor class that is not the highest, but enough to keep us protected during a fight. We're a rather practical person, I suppose. Our trust, though, of the people around us, we have no clue what to do with animals. Weird for a farmer. We have no insight whatsoever, which is likely the reason we trusted a talking scarecrow. We have no perception of the world around us. And we have no clue how to survive on our own. The only reason we have any skill in nature... Oh wait, is nature intelligence? Yeah, hell yeah. We have some understanding of nature. We could be pretty intimidating and acrobatic when we need to be. Lord. He has never left the corn. Yeah, corn ain't an animal. You don't need to know how animals work to grow some corn. Let's hear. And our full spell list includes Catapult, Cause Fear, Hellish Rebuke, and Magic Missile. We could do Eldritch Blast, Infestation, Mold Earth, Prestidigitation, Shape Water, Spare the Dying, and Thunderclap. Lords. Fuck, I love this character. I love this trusting, naive boy who is just doing whatever a scarecrow tells him to. Probably because the scarecrow has convinced him that he's a member of the family. And this dude does not understand that a scarecrow can't be a member of a family. Ah, the perfect specimen. Yep. Unfortunately, we do not have enough time to make another character, but I do hope you all enjoyed the process of us building the Corn Mancer. Did you guys have fun today? Because, oh god, how did we make this monstrosity? This was fantastic. I agree, Vulcan. I agree. Lord. But, I suppose I would like to thank you all for joining me this evening. I hope you learned a little bit about how I like to make D&D characters. And I hope you all enjoyed the construction of the Corn Mancer. Hey, Upgrade! Yeah, long time! How you been? Did you catch much of the stream? Because we're just about to close up, actually. This fills me with joy. I never thought I'd see my precious Corn Mancer begin to come to life. Lord. Shit. Wacko just showing up. Alright, I'm sorry, Upgrade, because we're about to close things down. The VODs are always auto-put up, and if you want, you could check out our first episode of Learning D&D, or you could watch this if you would like to. I appreciate you coming in, and I just want to apologize for not being able to give you a full stream, but however, Upgrade? I'm afraid there's been a redeem for you. A way I want to thank you for showing up. Hey, Upgrade. Ada. Oh god, a second one. Alright, we don't need the preamble then, but hey, Upgrade. Ada. Alright, and we got a few nices to knock out. Hey, Upgrade, nice. Crazy, nice. Sun, nice. And Sour Cake, maybe? Nice. But I'm afraid with that, I want to thank you all for joining me. I hope you all have a great weekend. And I hope to see you all very soon. Next weekend, I've got some time off from my D&D campaign, so I'll be finishing up the dungeon and sending out the second wave of invites to chat plays D&D with me. I hope you all have had a bunch of fun, and let's take a look around and see if there's anybody worth a raiding before I leave for the evening. Let us take a look. Let's see, what do we got? We got Artemis of the Blue. Oh, shit. Seems like Nemu's live. Oh, no. Not seeing any really, really small people, unless you guys have any suggestions. Ooh, let's see. Oh, small time streamers. All right. Ooh. Who are you? What do you guys think? You guys interested in going checking out someone playing some Dark Souls 3? Because it looks like we've got an elf I could send you guys off to go fucking annoy. Yeah, no suggestions? All right. Then we'll take a first time look at this boy. See what you guys think. For the last time, thank you all for joining me this evening. I hope you all had fun. And I hope to see you all real soon. Let's go raiding.
Everyone who's anyone in LA is gonna be there. I'm extremely rich. Hey girl, welcome to my house party. It's a giant mansion, baby. Don't slip on all my money. Yeah, there's a lot of models and some supermodels too. Don't touch my diamond fridge, it costs more than the country of Peru.
Seduction is like a game of chess, and I'm the queen. Wait.
Can't stop, won't stop, dancing deep into the night. It's a mansion party. Know that time is super tight. And if you're feeling naughty, we'll smoke champagne by candlelight. It's a mansion party. And later on the panda fight.
You've really got to agitate the pandas to get them engaged in combat. They're very docile by nature. I laced their bamboo.
Hey girl, heard you couldn't find the dance floor. Just walk right past the garden, go through the Spanish-French doors, turn right at the 7th bathroom, then a left at my laser car. You can ride my purebred stallion. If you hit my mode, you've gone too far. You've gone too far.
Take an upside down left at the MC Escher stairs.
Okay, you're almost halfway there. Can't stop, won't stop, dancing deep into the night. It's a mansion party. I bought a yacht just for tonight. And if you're feeling naughty, we'll smoke champagne by candlelight. It's a mansion party. Now let's watch two pandas fight.
My God! The battle pandas have escaped from the Pentagon and they're murdering the guests! It's last week all over again. Let's get the hell out of here!
Can't stop, won't stop, no.